That's what's important to me. That's what I like a lot because I'm really fascinated with people. I love my community, and I think that every single person in the community has something positive to bring to the table.
Hi, and welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm Dawn Davis, and this is episode 80. If you'd like more information about the podcast, it's all at the website desertladydiaries.com, and I invite you to engage with the guests, with other listeners, or me on social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Desert Lady Diaries, or on Twitter at Desert Lady Diary.
Alyce Herrera, her kids, and her dad were all born in San Luis Obispo, California. She moved to Joshua Tree from Felton, California in 2012 to be near her brother in Morongo Valley. Alyce has been a vegan for almost 5 years. An animal rights and human rights advocate, Alyce has combined these by participating in Food Not Bombs here in Joshua Tree, serving vegan food for the community as well as advocating for the rights of the local homeless people in our community. Alyce has written The Vegan Guide to Joshua Tree, is starting a blog called Alyce the Vegan, and will be doing a vegan photography tour in Iceland. Alyce loves her community and is committed to volunteering at the Joshua Tree Cultural Preservation Society, also known as the Beatnik Lounge, where she hosts a monthly community lecture series called Teddy Talks, named after JTCPS founder Teddy Quinn. The lecture series is a way to get to know the diverse people that call Joshua Tree home. In her spare time, she enjoys trying to force herself on her teenage kids and spending time with her posse of animals. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
My first question is, what was your first experience with desert?
Well, my mom grew up in Brawley by El Centro, so I've been coming out to this area since I can remember. Like, I can't even remember the first experience. But when I was a kid, I used to like coming out because I knew I could go swimming on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's cold where in San Luis Obispo. So,
right. And that's on the coast? Is it north?
It's just one town over from the coast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think I've driven through there, but
Yeah, it's right off the 101.
Okay, so
with Madonna Inn.
At some point, your brother moves to Morongo Valley.
Mm-hmm. My brother was living in Tijuana in the playas, and he got lymphatic cancer, and he had to come back to the States for treatments. And the least expensive place for him to stay was in Morongo Valley at this mobile home park. So that's how I got introduced to this area. Mm-hmm. I had never even heard of Joshua Tree before I came out here.
Oh my gosh.
So my best friend and I came out to visit my brother. And God, I don't even remember which year it was. I think I came here in 2012. So it was right before that. It must have been 2010 or 11. And I remember we went to a New Year's Eve party up at Pappy and Harriet's. And I had such a good time, and I connected with so many people, and I thought it was so great. And then I met Karen Reynolds. She's this chick I know with dreadlocks and stuff, and she's super fun, and I still know her now. And she was the very first person I met, and we sat in the bathroom at Pappy's for it seemed like 2 hours, talking. And I just thought it was really great. It's like I was in Santa Cruz and Felton, up in the mountains in the redwoods, and I thought it was like a little tiny Santa Cruz.
Okay, and I have yet to get to Santa Cruz, but I hear it's really cool.
Yeah, lots of artists and musicians and lots of activism.
What's the drive to there from here?
From here? I don't know, 8 hours or something.
Okay, so it's pretty long, yeah. Not just a hop, skip, and a jump.
No, it's right below San Francisco. So.
Oh, okay, so yeah, okay. You come to visit your brother, and then you have this experience at Pappy and Harriet's. What was it that made you say, I need to be there, I need to move there?
Well, I was caregiving for this really cool guy that was kind of like my adopted grandpa, and after he passed away, I didn't really want to stay in that area, and I'm usually a 5-year plan person. I just go around each 5 years to places.
I'm like a 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm way over my limit here. I'm going on 7, so. I wanted to move to Oregon at first, and then I decided that I hadn't really connected very much with my brother, so I moved out here. And honestly, I moved to Joshua Tree area instead of Morongo Valley because of the vegan pie at Natural Sisters and the vegan carrot cake. And I tell Mary Lee this, and she just is a little blown away by it. But yeah, I said, any place I can get vegan pie right down the street. That's like utopia. I wasn't even vegan yet. I was vegetarian, but that to me it was utopia there.
Right. So how did that whole process happen where you just decide, okay, I'm going to pack my stuff, get my kids in school, all that?
Oh God, that's really, I even moved my chickens in a big bus with me. So yeah, that was a huge transition. I don't know. When I make up my mind to do something, I do it.
So was it like over the course of a couple of months you kind of came?
Yeah, over the summer, because the person I was seeing at the time, he scoped out a place to live and kind of built the little chicken palace. And then we kept moving stuff, and then the final move was all of my chickens and my turkey and my ducks out here. So yeah, I used to be like the crazy bird lady. I had a rooster rescue, and then it exploded into all these birds. So,
oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you get to town. Now you're here. How did you start to get to meet people in the community? Did you go out to the music venues? Did you just stumble upon the Beatnik? How did that all come together?
Well, that was before the Beatnik, actually. Okay. And I was at Ricochet Cafe every morning. Every morning I would go out in the little table in the front and hang out at Ricochet Cafe, and then I'd go around to the thrift stores and stuff, and I would get in my big four-wheel drive vehicle at the time, and I think it was Expedition. I'd just drive out in the middle of nowhere, just on any random dirt road that I could find. And then one night I was walking, and it was like a Friday or Saturday night, I was walking downtown, and I was thinking to myself, I'm just going to walk around till I can hear some music, and then I'm going to go wherever that is. And I heard some music, and I wandered around to the back of Ricochet Vintage, and there was a whole concert going on, and I went over there, and I met this guy named John. He walked around and introduced me to everybody, and I think it was Gene playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was Gene and Piper were playing a long time ago. I think it was The Collective or something like that. And he introduced me to all these people, and then we ended up just wandering around from place to place all night. We literally stayed up all night. And and then in the morning we went to the swap meet. And yeah, that was my hello, here you are, here now,
Yeah.
It was really awesome. And from hanging out at Ricochet every day, she finally said, do you want a job? And so I worked there for a while, and that's kind of how I met everybody. The first people that I met, that was John and Teddy. I don't even remember the first time I met Teddy, but him and I had a huge connection, and he's one of my closest friends here. Who else did I meet? Dave Johnson, Big Dave.
Big Dave.
From
Hammer of the Oz.
Yeah.
Hammer of the Oz Dave.
Hammer of the Oz Dave, yeah. He's so good in that. I met him at the gas station, so it's just these random kind of interactions with people that I would meet here and there.
You say that was before the Beatnik, so talk to me about how that got started.
Teddy started the Beatnik, and I didn't really get on board until after it had already been open for a while. I was just looking for something to do because I've always worked for myself. And so I had a lot of spare time, so I would go over there and open it up about 10 or 11 and leave it open during the day and kind of sell stuff out of there. And that was when Hal Heiner had Trailer Trash.
What's that?
Trailer Trash was where Sun Alley Shops used to be.
Oh, okay.
Or is now.
Okay.
And it used to be called Trailer Trash. Eventually I had the trailer, which was a little store over there. When I was working, I think I was working at Ricochet at the time because I used to get off at Ricochet and then go down and open my store. So I had that shop. So after that, he ended up having to close it and took the trailer and stuff. So I had all this surplus stuff. So I used to go and sell it at the Beatnik.
Okay.
So that's how the Sunday market at the Beatnik started. I decided it would be really insane not to open it up during farmers market.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, so did that for a while, and Rich would come down with all his stuff, and he's real great because he has a harmonica and guitar, and then he gets Michael to come over and play guitar, and people come over with their harmonicas and stuff, so it would just be a big jam and stuff. It was
it's a great venue for music and spoken word. You have your Food Not Bombs there, so it's almost a kind of a community gathering place, cultural center sort of thing.
Well, that's why it's called the Joshua Tree Cultural Preservation Society.
Right. Yeah.
It's a long name of the Beatnik.
More regularly known as the Beatnik.
Yeah, and anybody can come in and and rent it out and do their shows or just do it by donation.
Yeah.
And it's really a great thing.
It is, yeah. I would say you are known to be a very passionate vegan person. But before we go down that road, just for the sake of clarification, vegetarian versus vegan, what are the differences?
Vegetarian is commonly known as you drink milk and eat eggs,
butter,
and honey. Yeah,
okay.
Any dairy. You just don't eat meat. And so vegan is, and I am not plant-based. I'm not, a lot of people are plant-based or veganish, or I'm pretty like, I got rid of everything that I wear, I own. I try and like, even, I have a hat right now that has a little piece of leather and I'm cut it off. Like, yeah, I've transformed my life. But for consumption, you don't eat anything that comes from anything that poops.
Oh, okay. That's a good way. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't do honey. I don't do eggs. I had chickens for a long time, and frankly, even when I was a meat eater, I'd never liked eggs anyway. So that's why I used to get all these chickens, was because they were egg eaters. And they would either get slaughtered or some people would just try and find a home for them. So they could eat them all day long. I don't care.
Yeah. So what was that turning point for you? Because you said you've been a vegan for 5 years.
Yeah, the chickens. When I first got chickens, I ate meat and chicken and all that. And I decided I was a hypocrite because I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't
slaughter it yourself.
Yeah,
right.
So I did. I raised 2 meat chickens, and I couldn't do it. And then finally they were getting crippled because they're not bred to last very long, to live very long.
Okay.
Their bodies are way too big. Their legs can't support it. Right. So then finally my boyfriend said, no, I have to put him out of his misery. And so he's the one who had to do it. And then he's like, just go ahead and eat it. And I put it in my mouth and I spit it out, and I never ever ate meat again.
Wow.
Never ate meat again. And then the other chicken, I rehabilitated. I made a harness for her with a bungee cord, and I got her and then she did. She ended up walking again, and I built a little trellis that would go up to the perch so she could get up there with the other chickens and stuff, and her name was Henny Penny. And I rehabilitated her.
Oh my gosh.
I'd eat their eggs sometimes, and that was when I was vegetarian, but by the time I got here, that's why I ate at the Ricochet, was because I could bring my own eggs and they would make them for me.
Oh, wow.
Even though, they're closed now, so I know it's like a health
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But, so I didn't have to eat anything from any other animals. But then, after they were gone, I had incidents with bobcats and stuff, and it just became too hard for me. And I lived right on the edge of the park. So it's not the wild animals' fault. I never blame them. Never, ever, ever blame them. But it was too hard for me to be able to contain them properly. So I rehomed them with other rescues so that they can live a happier life. So,
So if someone listening is not familiar with Food Not Bombs, can you talk about what that is exactly?
Food Not Bombs is a organization. It's an anarchist organization that was started in the 60s, I think. And Keith McHenry and some other people started it. And when they named it Food Not Bombs, it was during the era of bombs, nuclear war, all this stuff was in the air. And they saw that there was plenty of money for war, but there wasn't enough to feed the people who need it. And they came up with this outrageous idea that food is a right, not a privilege. And so they started Food Not Bombs, and now it's mainly Keith McHenry who keeps it going, and he has a website, Food Not Bombs, himself. And it's a worldwide organization that goes about getting food that would be wasted and preparing it for anybody in need, or even if you're not in need. Like, I had the community potluck dinner, and that's very different from what they usually do. What they usually do is they take food that they prepare and they take it out to a location where lots of homeless or people who are needy are. And I didn't see that in Joshua Tree. I didn't see a central place that the homeless would gather, like other than Valero, or we didn't really they don't really go to the park or anything like that. So, and then because it's so inexpensive to live out here, I saw a large number of people who were housed but were still in need, and a large number of people who are artists and musicians and things like that that are also equally as in need, the starving artist, quote unquote. So I made it a potluck, and I really embrace having community come together and having a lot of different people that wouldn't normally be around each other coming together. That's the same with Teddy Talks. I like incorporating a lot of different people together in one space so they can get to know each other and be exposed to each other, because sometimes you get in your lone little world and you're not exposed to other things.
So when people want to come to Food Not Bombs, when is it? And are they required to bring something? I guess they're not really required to bring.
Not,
they can just come and eat.
Yeah. So my last Food Not Bombs was this past Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month. I think it was the last Wednesday. I'm moving on to doing other things. So if anybody wants to take up Food Not Bombs, that's fine. Food Not Bombs is an anarchist organization, so it's not like one person is in power. It's everybody. So when people come up and say, oh, well, you're the one who did Food Not Bombs, I said, I don't do Food Not Bombs. Everybody does Food Not Bombs. Okay. Everybody is, I'm not any more or less than any other person that comes in that door when it's Food Not Bombs. We're all needed equally. Right. And so anybody could take that up. But right now, every Tuesday, Sunny Sundowner has a veggie potluck. I'm giving him my donations, and then I'm not sure what they're going to call it, if they're going to call it Food Not Bombs or anything, but Peggy Lee Kennedy, who is the original Food Not Bombs person in this area. She also does homeless advocacy in Venice Beach. She's my homeless rights mentor, and we've been trying to champion a homeless shelter in the area because there's no homeless shelter. As you know, the nearest one is in Indio, and that's like a very limited beds, and that's for the entire area, high and low desert.
Wow.
She is the original Food Not Bombs person, but it's hard for her with all her advocacy that she's doing.
Right.
So yeah, I put it out there for anybody who wants to pick it up. Right now, every Tuesday at the Beatnik at 6 p.m. is a Buddhist meditation. And then at 7, they have a veggie potluck. And everybody's welcome to go, and there will be periodic donations of food, clothing, or whatever people want to bring to the event.
And that's Sunny who's doing that, Sunny Sundowner. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I put that in the blog.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah.
And Peggy Lee Kennedy was the person?
Peggy Lee Kennedy is an outrageous person, and she's, like I said, my mentor. She's a really awesome person.
That's cool
to know.
So speaking of the Beatnik still, how did you come up with the concept for Teddy Talks?
Well, I am a crazy person for Moth Hour Radio and StoryCorps and TED Talks and any kind of lectures that I can find on YouTube. And right now I'm nuts about James Aspie. He's a vegan activist, and he is so... When I was about to do my talk, I watched a million of these videos. James, he's from Australia, and he's running for Parliament. He's so well spoken, and he's really able to, even in the face of anger or all these emotions that come up when you're speaking about veganism to people who are not vegan, they lash out at you and they culminate all their negative emotions and stuff, and they kind of channel it towards you, whether it's challenging you or giving you ridiculous questions or very valid questions or not letting you speak or whatever it is that happens in these conversations. And James does it with such grace, and it's just amazing to hear him and watch him and try and learn how to channel my what would James do in this situation. kind of because I really want to do more animal rights advocacy. That's another reason I stopped doing Food Not Bombs, is because I really want to start on that path again. I actually did my first protest with Keith McHenry and his girlfriend and his sweet little dog that passed away. It was really a light one. It was at Whole Foods, and it was during the Animal Rights Conference, which I go to every year. And the Animal Rights Conference is run by Farm. It's the Farm Animal Rights Movement, and they donate all the leftover, or as much as I can take, food,
Right.
to Food Not Bombs for me to take
That's
with them
wonderful.
out every other year they're in LA. And that's the reason I started Food Not Bombs, because I had all this food.
Right.
And they're really awesome. And Shamira runs the kitchen, and I like to volunteer in the kitchen, and that's how I got hooked up with that.
Nice.
So Farm is awesome.
So has James inspired you? Was he one of the inspirations of Teddy Talks?
I think Cheryl, who does Desert Stories, not until this last Desert Stories had I ever gone to Desert Stories, but just the idea of that was really awesome. And the way that she does it is totally different from me. But just the idea of it, and Cheryl's such an awesome person. I love her so much. And she's just super warm, and she makes you feel very at ease, and even in just meeting up with her in life. And
She's been on the podcast.
yeah. She's awesome. And my love-hate relationship with Facebook.
Right.
So that was really my pusher. I see people making comments, and mean comments, and people I know, and you're going, I don't know that person. Who's
Right,
that
I don't know
person?
that side of that person.
Who is that
Yeah.
person? And then I thought, this really gets on my nerves. Would you act this way if you looked at this person and knew this person, even one little story about this person?
Yeah.
And that made me really push forward to do Teddy Talks. And I don't care if you're somebody that's well known in the community, or just somebody who has just moved to the community, or somebody who's never really done anything like that. I hear that a lot, like, oh, I've never done anything like that. I'm so, well, that's okay.
You're
Think
amongst
about it.
friends.
You can use the stage, but it's not like you're in the spotlight, like in front of all these strange people. Or I try and make it as warm and comforting and really easygoing as possible. I let you run the show. You can talk about whatever you want, however you want. You can do group participation. You can sing the entire time. You can recite lines of poetry. You can do whatever you want. And that in itself is showing who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what's important to me. That's what I like a lot, because I'm really fascinated with people. I love my community, and I think that every single person in the community has something positive to bring to the table.
For sure.
Yeah. And it's just as important to be an audience member.
Right.
To come and see these
And
people
learn.
and learn and get to know people, and even if you disagree, or like on my talk was about veganism and a couple of people walked out, and my pictures were very, very PC. That's okay.
That's okay.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Right.
And
just not for them. That's all.
or maybe it brought something up, or they have to go, or no
right.
judgment. And that's what I like too, is not only the participants, but also the audience. I like it's very open,
Is it donation based, or is it strictly, and it's free? People
there's
don't
a
need to
donation
pay,
jar,
right?
so they can come and they can give a donation if they want to.
Right.
The donation jar is always there.
Okay.
I don't even really push
Monitor
that
it,
so
yeah.
much.
Okay.
People will come up and ask me, or just give me the money, and I'll just throw it in the donation
Well, I've
jar.
noticed it's usually on the table with some snacks.
Yeah, on the bar
or whatever.
and the
Yeah.
snacks. Yeah.
Okay.
100% of that money goes back to the beatnik. I don't keep it. The
Right.
presenters don't keep it. I mean, I pay for the food and everything, so it's not a big deal. So.
And just to round back on why it's called Teddy Talks.
Teddy Quinn, man.
Our founder of the Joshua Tree Cultural Preservation Society.
He's like the Willy Wonka of Joshua Tree, man.
The mayor.
Yeah. I don't know. Willy Wonka's way better than me.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially when you get that golden ticket.
Oh, yeah.
So, and for anybody traveling to Joshua Tree or living in Joshua Tree, you have something called the Vegan Guide to Joshua Tree. What's that about?
Yes, I have the Vegan Guide to Joshua Tree. I went around to all the different restaurants and I ordered everything I could find that was vegan. And Casey, my boyfriend, he's a photographer. He took great pictures, and we did a website of food that's vegan in this area. It's an ongoing thing. I also have it on my blog, which I'm working on, is Alyce the Vegan, which is because a lot of people were like, Alyce, the vegan. Yeah. And I'm also working on a vegan tour to Iceland in October with Casey, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Great. And Casey goes because he does photography workshop, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Photography
nice.
tours,
Well, that'll be
and,
wonderful.
Yeah, he'll be back tomorrow.
Well, and that opens up a different audience even, too, to the photography workshop.
Yeah,
If they know they can also go and be taken care of
definitely.
in their food
Well, it's going to be like a special tour. There's a vegan chef that's coming, and we're going to stay in Airbnbs instead of staying in the RVs that he usually rents the RVs and goes chasing the auroras. But this is going to be kind of a different, all new scenario. It'll be a lot of fun. That ties in with all the new vegan stuff that I'm trying to incorporate into my vegan community.
Be doing the blog post, so I will be sure to put all those links on there so people can find they can find you, and they can find the vegan guide, and they can find your blog and all that stuff on there.
Yay.
So thanks so much for coming today. But before we go, I'm going to ask you to choose 4 random numbers between 1 and 50. Answers that you give to those questions will be a special podcast for our Patreon listeners. So, what are your numbers? 1 to 50.
13. How many of them do I have?
4.
Oh, 13. 4. 46 and 2.
2. Okay. So these are the questions that Alyce is going to be answering on Diary Unlocked. What do you think about when you're alone in your car? What was the last gift you gave someone? Then we'll go to what's your favorite season and why? And last, what is your greatest extravagance? So if you would like to hear Alyce's answers to those questions, go over to desertladydiaries.com, click on the support page, and you'll have all the information there you need to sign up as a Patreon supporter. Thank you so much for being here.
Alyce talked about some folks being reluctant to do a TEDdy Talk because they've never done anything like that before. If this sounds like you and you have a skill or a story that you'd like to share with the community, post it up on the Facebook group or send an email to me at desertladydiaries@gmail.com, and let's get you up on that stage to tell your story. I have some shout-outs this week. The first one is to Patreon supporter Nancy M. I appreciate you so much, Nancy. I hope you're enjoying the extra content. And to Tammy D for signing up for the weekly newsletter that contains each new episode. Thank you so much, Tammy. If you're enjoying this podcast, I hope you'll subscribe on whatever platform you're listening from. It's free to subscribe, and it's free to share it with a friend. I hope you'll do that too. Come back next week for a conversation with Pam Anders, the first female animal control officer in the Morongo Basin. I'm sure she's going to have some great stories. Thanks so much for listening.